on, start rolling. Okay. Ooh, I'm just going to leap into it. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Diner podcast. This is episode 205. It is our Ender's Game review. We call it kind of our Sci-Fi rewind, although I guess, Miles, in the traditional sense, this isn't really a rewind for us.
No, not really. Usually we review a movie years and years in the past.
Yeah, and now it's just months and months in the past. It's not quite the same, is it? So I'm one of your hosts, Scott Herzog.
Good evening. I'm Miles P. McLaughlin.
Hi, I'm David Moulton.
And Jim Arrowwood here.
Yep, and we're coming from all across the U.S. tonight and all across the county from where we're at. And it's a lot of inclement weather, but we're in the warm, and we're here discussing Ender's Game.
We are.
It will be a good time. Now, for those of you that have never joined in one of our rewinds, our review shows, we typically talk about how this movie's doing or has done at the box office. We begin to point out our favorite moments of it, maybe some of our favorite acting performances, maybe some things we didn't like. We discuss some of the issues the movie has brought up, if there are any. Talk about effects and what we overall what we liked about the movie overall, and maybe some favorite quotes. And typically we try to stay within about an hour, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of where we're gonna start. And so I guess I guess to start off, why don't we talk about how we first embraced this movie? I mean, first of all, did anyone here read the book maybe before we get in? Because if you aren't familiar with Ender's Game, is actually a book first and then a movie second. So Miles, did you ever read the Ender's Game book?
No, but I'm seriously considering reading it now.
Yeah, I read it, I guess in high school. It's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've read through parts of it since. And I actually teach a book using Orson Scott Card. He wrote a book called Character and Viewpoint. I use it in my creative writing classes to teach character because it's just a great book here. David, did you ever read Ender's Game?
No, it's been recommended many times, but I just haven't gotten to it. But after seeing the movie twice now, I really want to dig into it when I get some free time.
The movie does a good job of capturing the essence of the book, at least in my opinion of it. I mean, I know you aren't reading anything else right now, David, so
yeah.
There's just a thing called Dune.
No big deal.
Yeah. Did you start reading Dune yet?
Yeah, I am about 100 pages in.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. I actually read a passage from Dune to my creative writing class today.
Oh, wow. Cool. Very cool.
Yeah, it was a descriptive passage. Leto's out on the balcony overlooking the rising sun and the dawn, and the way Frank Herbert's just describing it is absolutely awesome.
Oh, yeah, I just passed that part. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Whose phone's that?
That's mine.
Okay, no, that's fine. Answer it. No, I'm just kidding. Don't. We'll wait till it stops ringing here.
Yeah, that should be the last one. It's political season. We're getting calls from idiots that are running for office.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not running. No, I'm just kidding. I'd be one of those idiots. No.
I'll tell you.
Yeah, Jim. How about you? Did you read the book?
I did. As a matter of fact, I finished it just a couple of days before the movie opened.
Okay, so in your opinion of the book, Jim?
Mm-hmm.
No, your opinion of the book.
Oh, I see. Yes, I really, really enjoyed the book a lot. Read it in preparation to see the movie, and yeah, it's a good book.
Yeah. Now, did you feel like the essence of the movie captured the essence of the book?
As far as Ender's story is concerned, yes. There were some other elements, some political elements that were in the book that were not in the movie. So they really wouldn't have fit in a 2-hour movie.
Yeah. I was telling my students that, because I teach creative writing, I said, it's kind of ludicrous for people to argue it's not the same in the book. I mean, you just can't fit every single thing that you can put into a book into a movie unless you're Peter Jackson of 3 movies to make out of one book. There's very few people that get that luxury to kind of explore the universe that way. And so I've learned to just not expect them to be alike, and I'm okay with that most times.
Well, as far as Ender's Story is concerned, the movie is the book.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, that's high praise. It's high praise, definitely. Well, this movie didn't do it didn't. Initially, I thought this movie didn't do that great at the box office, and I guess compared to a lot of movies that are out right now, it didn't. But it cost them about $110 million to make. That was the production budget, so it doesn't go, I guess, that doesn't include advertising, does it?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know if it does or not. Does anyone know? Does the production budget, does that include the advertising budget as well?
I don't know.
Yeah. Listeners, if you know, you can let us know if that's typically included in it. But if it didn't, it did make back its money. It was, $61 million here stateside, and then an additional $63 million overseas. So it made a couple million for him. Not too much, but it made a little bit for him.
Yeah, they made they definitely at least made the money they put into the movie and made a little profit on it.
Yeah, probably not enough to see the sequels happen, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. So I saw it opening weekend in IMAX with some family, and there was probably the theater wasn't even a quarter of the way full on opening weekend.
Oh.
So,
yeah.
It wasn't a good turnout.
Did you see it opening weekend, Jim?
I did. I saw it the night it opened here in Kearney, and there were quite a few in the theater that night.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. In Miles, I don't think you and I saw it till it came to.
It was available to rent.
Yeah, till it was able to rent, and then there were no crowds in the theater I was in. Yeah, made myself some popcorn. I popped on the TV, and I was good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, so let's talk first impressions here. What did you think of it? First watch through. Maybe if you heard some stuff about it, what did that compare to what you were hearing about it when you saw it? And why don't we start? Why don't we start with you, Miles?
I saw the trailer a while back, and I thought the trailer looked very impressive. I had given serious thought about seeing it in theaters, but it just didn't work out. But I did want to see the movie after it was available to rent. Basically, I got the basic. It was about this kid who is basically this genius, and the military's using him to help them win the war. But it's a very deep film. I mean, we'll get into some of the philosophical and ethical things they explore in this movie. But you have this kid who is basically a Mozart with other Mozarts and Salieri's of varying degrees, but except in a military academy situation. Harrison Ford's character is basically manipulating this kid, every which way, and you see, early on that they test him. They pretend to boot him out of camp at the academy, but it's to see how he'll deal with that situation. So, and then you find out a little bit about his life, who his brother was, who his sister is, and how they've influenced him, and how they are an influence on him. I kind of thought of them, one is the yin and one is the yang, as far as how they've helped to shape and mold him.
You mentioned that Harrison Ford's character, I guess, Colonel Graff is manipulating Ender, but I didn't sense that it was. Maybe I'm wrong, and Jim and David, you can pipe in here too. But I didn't sense that it was like I thought that he was putting him through training, and I guess they were testing him at different points how he would react. but I didn't necessarily sense it was really manipulation until the end scene when they, commit the genocidal act in the movie. Up to that point, it's like all seems fairly like training and guiding, and I guess you could call it manipulating, but that's like as much manipulation as I do as a teacher when I'm guiding and teaching my students.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What do you guys think?
I felt like it was everything was a test, and he wanted Ender to be the one so much that if there was manipulation, it was more to make it so Ender fit the mold that he was trying to get him to fit. You know what I mean? Like he wanted him to do this, so he'll put him in a situation where he can prove himself in that capacity.
Yeah, definitely. Jim, your thoughts?
I saw Ender as an amalgam of his brother and his sister. His brother was absolutely cruel, uncaring, violent, vicious, and the sister was very nurturing and caring. And Ender ended up kind of in the middle of that. And Graf saw these two parts of him, and he was guiding Ender into the direction that he wanted him to go, using these different sides of him.
So I guess bringing it back to the question. So, in your opinion, him playing to Ender's both sides was a kind of manipulation then?
Not so much a manipulation as much as directing Ender to the end that they needed to have. As far as Graf was concerned, the Formics were coming. They were going to destroy the Earth, because if they came the second time, nobody was going to stop them. And so it was going to be a preemptive strike. That was Graf's goal, and to destroying the Formics, Ender was his vehicle to do that.
Right. Which brings up another bunch of ethical questions that we can get into a little bit later on about preemptive strikes and what that actually means and so on. Interesting. The only part that I might argue that there maybe was a little manipulation of Ender is when he says, "You know what? That's it. I'm out of here." He goes back to Earth, and then Graf brings his sister in to kind of talk him back up into the station. Mm-hmm. And then he's taken to another base altogether to kind of take on his role of leadership.
The book did a much more in-depth job, and as I read the book, I know that I felt sorry for Ender. I felt bad for this kid because he had no future other than what the military wanted from him.
Yeah.
That didn't come out as much in the movie as it did in the book, I think.
Yeah, maybe it's hinted at in the movie in that there a couple times they say that he was born for this. He was kind of, the first two washed out for different reasons, but the third one, he was born for this moment, this role, and he was kind of, everything in his life was leading up to this moment. And it's not like he had a lot of options.
Another thing of note for manipulation is the emotional manipulation, where when he first gets to battle school, Graf says his isolation must never be broken, and that he can't. Nobody is supposed to reach out to him when he's struggling. Right. So
we especially see that when he asks, they had their privacy rights restored, but he's trying to send letters to his sister, and he hasn't getting it back. And he asks if it's being blocked, and Colonel says, yeah, it is. You don't need that kind of influence right now. It's a distraction for you.
Right.
And so there is that manipulation. So hoping that
she would have probably made him weak is what Graf might have had in mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It would have definitely been a little bit of distraction there as well. So let's talk a little bit. We got some Miles. We started with you about getting your initial thoughts on the movie. David, how about you? Your thoughts? You saw the movie twice in theaters. Is both the times in theaters?
No, once in theaters and then once last night.
So tell me, what was when you went in? What were you hearing? What were you expecting? How did the movie deliver for you?
Well, okay, so I had heard about the books, a long time ago. I had a friend who really, really likes them. Uh, when the movie came out, I was impressed by the trailer, but something about it just, I don't know, I just kept thinking, this isn't going to be that good. It looked almost too pretty for its own good. And I was just kind of like, I don't know if this will be any good. So I hadn't actually planned on seeing it. And then it turned out that I was visiting some relatives, and we decided to go to a movie, and there weren't very many good ones out. And I said, well, I kind of want to see Ender's Game. So we all went to that. And my first impression, I was incredibly impressed. I really, really liked the movie. I was pleasantly surprised all around. The only thing is I felt it felt a little long in the draw, but other than that, everything from the music to the acting, I just thought it was very well done. So only 2 of the 7 of us that went actually enjoyed the film, but yeah, I came out of the theater thinking, man, I'd watch that again. Not necessarily like I'll go see it in the theaters or I'll buy it, but I'll watch it again. So.
Okay. Very good. And so positive first impression. And the other people that saw it with you, what did they say? What did they think of it?
Well, my aunt, she really, really liked it. She just likes film in general. And then everyone else that, they just thought it was boring or they didn't understand some of the concepts. I think that it was, there's different levels of science fiction. There's like the real surfacey level that most people can attach to, and then there's like that next step where you have to kind of be familiar with scientific or sci-fi lore or the general aspects of it to really kind of grasp the concepts. I feel that Ender's Game is kind of that second tier where you have to really enjoy science fiction to kind of grasp some of the bigger concepts there,
Okay.
or to be open to them.
Okay. Very good. Very good. And how about you, Jim? So you went to the movie. How did it feel for you? What did you heard prior to the movie? Good, bad, ugly, everything.
Well, most of what I heard prior to the movie was a lot of negative about Orson Scott Card, and there was just so much of that. I actually didn't hear a great deal about the movie. I had seen the trailer, and then I read the book. And when I did get to the theater, it was about the fastest 2 hours I had ever spent.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. And I brought Chrissy and Diane along. Chrissy's 9 years old. She loved it, absolutely loved it. And my wife actually enjoyed it, and she's not big on the sci-fi.
Excuse me.
Huh.
Oh, well, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
I should probably mention that about 3 weeks later, after it opened, I was up in Lincoln for the music teachers convention, and one of my students had made all-state choir. And he and I went on Friday night at 10 o'clock, and he absolutely loved it. He was really wowed.
Huh.
Nice.
So,
Now, and how old's Chrissy?
Chrissy's 9. She'll
She's
be
9.
10. She'll be 10 in 2 weeks.
And you felt like for a movie, it was it was accessible to her, and I mean the movie, I forget what it was, rated what, PG-13?
Mm-hmm.
But it was appropriate for her.
I didn't really see anything in there that I thought would damage her at all.
Yeah.
I would not be afraid to take anybody to this movie.
Okay.
There's,
So you think my 7-year-old son might be able to handle it?
I think so.
Yeah.
I would say everything except for the scene with the mouse going into the guy's head.
That's kind of gross.
Yeah.
That wigs me out.
And even that was just a cartoon.
Right.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
True.
There are a couple of scenes of violence in there when Ender defends himself in the lab, and then when him and Bonzo get into the fight in the shower.
Yeah. 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 Well, absolutely. Awesome. Awesome. Again, I had heard a lot of what you heard, Jim, about the talk about it. And we had this discussion in the diner a while back that we said, you know what? Despite the controversy that's going around to the author, Miles, I think you mentioned prior to us recording tonight that the rights for this movie were sold, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. I remember hearing stories that the rights had been sold. I'm like, great, we're getting an Ender movie, and then it just never coming down the pike.
Right.
And so finally, here it comes. The author's 10, 15 years removed from the selling of the thing. He doesn't really make a red cent off of the sucker.
Mm-hmm.
And other than book sales, which obviously it would have helped.
I'm sure. Yeah.
It would help in book sales. But, I mean, I remember in high school, so we're talking like mid-'80s, that this book was out in print and that you were able to read it. I forget, what was the publication of the Jim, do you know, or David, do you know the publication of the book when that came out?
I don't. I can look it up. Hold on.
I think it was 1985.
Oh, was it? Yeah, I was going to
think.
say. Yeah, okay, 1985. So it was right around there. I must have read it soon after it came out, and I liked the movie. I liked the book, I meant, when I read it. So.
Yeah, 85 is correct. Yeah.
Oh, awesome, Jim! Ding, ding, ding! Give Jim some bonus points tonight, folks. All right, well let's. Yeah, we'll take them. All right. Well, let's talk about some of our favorite moments in this film. And David, why don't we let you go first? Give me a favorite moment, something that stuck out to you. And it doesn't have to be a moment. Maybe it's a moment that kind of spoke to you, or it could be just a favorite moment. So.
Okay. Let's see here. I really like the moment where Ender is playing the gate game with his dragon team. I forget what did they give that a name? Did they give that game a name?
Yeah.
I don't remember if they gave it a name, but anyway, I really like that part where he kind of Trojan horses the guy through the gate on the other end, where they all clump together and they kind of go, and then Harrison Ford's kind of standing in the window just watching and taking it all in. I thought that was really that whole sequence was really cool.
Yeah, they just called that a formation, I think.
Yeah, the formation. Yeah.
I don't know what the game was called though. There has to be a name for it. I just don't know. They probably mentioned the movie. I just can't. So that was a good movement. And when they shoot that guy out with a tether rope and then wing him back around.
Yeah.
It was just kind of there was a lot of things that Ender was doing that was kind of thinking outside the box of the game.
Yeah, and one of the things I liked about it is he was not the guy in the center. He was on top. He got shot, but he wasn't the one scoring the point.
Right. But he was the one making sure that the objectives were achieved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, Ender. He is not somebody who is going to put himself his goals ahead of the team's goals.
Correct.
And we saw that in contradistinction with Bonzo.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Jim, how about you? A moment that kind of stood out to you?
Anytime they went into the battle room, as I read the book, the battle room was a big black box. There were no windows or anything. So in the movie, it was completely different, being this big glass globe, and it was done so well. Especially the scene where they did do the formation and he was floating along with a weapon in each hand and spinning and picking guys off one after another. I also really enjoyed the scenes the scene where he was training with Petra. They went way into depth in that in the book, and I almost wish that there had been more of that in the movie.
Yeah, that's basically the role that she plays, is kind of the training role, and then you see him there. She kind of, I guess, is part of his, final battle crew, but that's about it. We don't see him a lot else. So, but yeah, Miles, how about for you? Another moment that kind of stood out to you in this movie.
I gotta agree with Jim about the battle room, but at first the scene was I thought it started out as sort of disturbing. Ender's finishing taking a shower, and Bonzo and his goons are with it. I'm thinking, oh crap!
Yeah.
I mean, this never ends good.
Yeah. I know. That's such at one end, it's kind of a cliche. Get attacked in the shower, type thing.
I was thinking of the cliche,
and definitely kind of a cliched thing. Go on.
And Ender is obviously the smartest kid alive. He says, he's a real tough guy who has 3 guys getting beating up one guy in the shower, and so Bonzo obviously has a pride problem, and so he dismisses his goons to watch the doors. And when Ender kicks Bonzo and Bonzo's head bounces off that thing, and you just see a look on his face that, okay, something's wrong. I mean, Ender didn't want this fight in the first place. I mean, he's not. I mean, for somebody who is in the military, he doesn't seek out conflict. He's actually he tries to be somewhat of a peacemaker if at all possible. But obviously he can't in this situation. He feels horrible what happened to Bonzo.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's distraught. He's I mean, we see at the end, he wants to quit the academy.
Yeah, we think he's dead, and and he's I guess not. They're going to send him home. I guess is kind of the final.
We know that Bonzo is never going to be the same again.
Yeah.
I mean, he either broke his neck or he had major head trauma. Bonzo is vegetable, whatever he is. He's not going to be the same guy who after that situation. And Ender is not. I mean, we get some more information about his character. I mean, we were getting at the whole movie, but we just see he didn't want this fight. He didn't want to hurt Bonzo this way.
Yeah.
He feels horrible what he had to do to Bonzo. It's not his fault. He had to defend himself. It ended horribly, and he feels horrible about the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, and it gives you an empathy for Ender. It's one of the parts that develops. You have a little bit of a sympathy for him about the struggles, and it brings humanity to him to some degree. At the same time, you say that he doesn't look for the fight, but if the fight comes for him, he's doing what he can to win that fight. Because, I mean, you see him, so he knows he's going to fight. What's he doing in the shower? He's lathering up.
Well, not just lathering up, but he's strategizing. He turns the shower on to as hot as it can be, and he uses the hot water as a weapon against him. So
right,
he will fight. If he's pushed in a corner and he has no choice, God help you, he will fight. And and he might win. But he doesn't necessarily want to do it.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, you notice that it went to the extreme where he disabled this kid. If you think back to earlier in the movie when he was in the lab and he grabbed the formic, I assume it was a claw of some kind, and he had that kid on the ground, and he kicked him and kicked him and kicked him and kicked him, and didn't stop. That was his brother coming through.
Yeah.
On there.
And that's where I see there's this yin and yang. I think they're trying to show in the movie that his brother represents his violent tendencies that are there, but then he has his sister's humanity, her compassion, empathy, and he has both.
So Jim, are you kind of arguing that there's a progression for Ender through the movie? So at the beginning, he's more like his brother, at least when he hits conflict, and about the middle, there's a little bit more middle ground, and at the end, you see kind of this compassionate side. Is that kind of the journey that you see Ender on?
Well, what I see is an extreme reaction to defending himself. He's not only going to win the fight, but he is going to destroy his enemy. Move forward to the end of the picture. What did he do? He destroyed the planet, and then after that, he had remorse for doing that.
Well, true. David, do you have any thoughts on this scene?
Well, I guess I kind of agree with what Jim was saying there. You know, it's like in the heat of the moment, he'll do whatever he can take to win and, you know, incapacitate his opponent. But then once that moment's passed, his kind of compassion kicks in and he realizes what he's done. And it's kind of like he didn't want to he didn't want to kill Bonzo or anything. He just didn't want Bonzo to get back up, you know, or the other guy.
Right.
That's kind of how I took it.
He wanted to win that fight so that he didn't have to fight anymore in the future.
Right, right.
Well, if we go back to the first scene where he's fighting, where this one bully and his buddies, you know, corner him in that one room, and you know, he's beating the crap out of that kid with that formic claw. But then his two friends try to intervene, and he's like, you know, you don't want any of this. I mean, and they don't. You know? For, you know, Colonel Graff, when he asks him about, and we talked about this a little bit already about, you know, why did you keep beating him? He says, so he won't do it again.
Right,
So
definitely.
there is this. It was a preemptive. I mean, he only probably had to hit him once or twice with that claw, and the kid would have stopped fighting him. He hit him a few more times. I mean, it wasn't, you know. So he has what Graff is looking for. Somebody who, you know, that has this mindset to think preemptively when you're dealing with the enemy. It's not just defending yourself against the enemy. It's basically beating them down so they can't
get up again.
They can't get up and hurt you. So
yeah,
well,
Jim, how about, go ahead.
It also sends a message to anybody that wants to try to do it again. It's like, hey, this kid is a lot tougher than he looks.
Right. It's almost like there's three tiers. You have the school on Earth. He has to teach a kid the lesson, and then no one else does it. Then you're at battle school, and he teaches a kid a lesson. No one else does it, right? And then then you're up at the scenario, right? And he teaches the Formex the lesson, and no one else does it again, or you know, whatever it is. It's kind of like the lesson keeps having higher stakes, and you know,
well, then there's
further complications.
Yeah, there's the exchange after the scene in the lab. Major Anderson says, after you had already won, why did you continue to hit him? Did you enjoy it? And Ender says, knocking him down was the first fight. I wanted to win all the others so they'd leave me alone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, Jim, tell me about a moment that that stuck out to you as being a favorite.
I would have to say that I remember from the book when Ender met Rackham the first time. That was an interesting moment, and it played out not as well on the screen as I would have liked it to. But when Rackham put Ender down and held him down, and Ender says, "You win, you win," and Rackham says, "Since when do you have to tell the enemy when he has won?"
That was a good scene.
Yeah, this was one of the best performances I've seen out of Ben Kingsley.
Yeah, I haven't seen what else has Ben Kingsley done? I've seen him in other stuff. Come on, the guy is
he was in Captain America.
He was in Iron Man 3 as the
not Captain. Yeah, right. Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
Mandarin.
He was Gandhi. He was incredible as Gandhi.
Mm-hmm.
I liked him in Gandhi.
And he's been in lots of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's actually knighted, isn't he?
Yes.
No, he should be.
I thought he was Serbian. I could be wrong.
He's born in England, and he's British.
I think he's of New Zealand ancestry, though.
His father was I'm going to botch this, Gujarati Indian descent, and his mother was a Goodman, was British. So, kind of split there. But yeah, so that, and he was in Schindler's List, too. That was probably another one of his big ones. But he's acting in a ton of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But, all right. Well, so yeah, you know, So let's go back to talking about him a little bit. Not necessarily him as an actor, but that role that he played as Rackham. That scene there they played, of the ship flying up, and I love when he plays a movie and pulls back the curtain and gives Ender kind of that inside look about what really happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was kind of cool.
Well, Ender realizes that, what are you not telling us?
Yeah.
He knows that he's not getting the whole story here.
And he figures it out by the reflection on the helmet. He figures out the pattern, that there's a pattern to their fight.
Right.
Yeah.
He says, what do you see? What did you see in your HUD?
Yeah.
So
I thought that was kind of cool. Plus, he just had some dang awesome tattoos. Miles, I'm waiting for you to get a face tattoo like that.
You'll be waiting a long time.
Maybe I have a better chance with David and his tattoos.
I don't know if I'll go to the face. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think probably one of the top scenes for me has to be. It is a scene. And I guess we could address the whole kind of end scene, not really the end scene, but the scene of the battle against the Formex at the very end, the one that he unknowingly is entrenched in. But when he decides to go blast the planet, he's doing that move at the expense of sacrificing other ships to achieve the necessary end that he desires. And it really shows kind of the sole purpose that there are casualties along the way that people are, he doesn't know that, but in the scenario are dispensable to him just so he can achieve a win, and that he will do anything to achieve a victory.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was especially powerful, and he has people on his team that are kind of being knocked out of the game in a sense, and he's just ruthless and heading forward.
Yeah, he's sacrificing troop carriers and fighters to be like heat shields for this one ship that has this particle beam weapon that can do this kind of damage.
It's like the Death Star, really.
Yeah, they're protecting the Death Star.
They are protecting the Death Star. I knew I saw the Death Star in Ender's Game. No. Yeah, but that, it really, the whole end scene brings up so many moral questions. We can get into this now, I guess. It's good a time of any. But there are many questions it kind of brings up. The idea of, like, at what cost do we view as, when does human life become expendable so we can achieve a certain victory? We kind of, I think any time the U.S. has gone to war, there's always kind of that caveat. What cost is too high?
Well, there's no exploration of trying to sue for peace. There's no. They say, well, the Formex don't have vocal cords. We can't communicate with them. And Ender asks, have you tried something else? It seems like there is no attempt whatsoever. Okay, yes, we defended our planet, and we got to make sure we stay vigilant to defend it again. But there's no peace is not even an option. It's not even on the table.
Which is really, really sad, because as Ender pointed out, we don't even know if they were going to invade again.
Right.
They invaded once, they got turned away. Are they going to come back again? When they got here, they didn't know the planet was populated.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. David, thoughts?
I really feel like, again, they're just emphasizing that kick them while they're down so they don't get up theme that repeats over and over and over in the movie. And he had no idea that he was sacrificing actual lives to get this going. And I think that, someone will take bigger risks in a video game or simulation than they would in real life. Had he ever known that he was actually controlling ships, I don't think that he would have had the same kind of results whatsoever.
Yeah. I think arguably this is one of the tragic beauties of Ender's Game when you're reading the book, or in this case, watching the movie, and you get to the end and realize that he realizes that the game he was playing wasn't really a game, and that he was really actually fighting the buggers all along.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's one of the tragic beauties of it, and you know, it really, I mean, so parallel it into, our society today. Are there instances where we, fight a battle and then we just take it to the enemy and destroy them? Do we ever do that, or is that just kind of is that a far-fetched thing?
We've come close in World War II when we dropped two atom bombs in Japan. I mean, we didn't obviously wipe out Japan itself, but it was enough to beat them into submission to get them to surrender.
Right.
Well, and we have not had a push like that since World War II.
Yeah. So I guess maybe you could argue that we kicked them down and kicked them again and again and again, so they don't ever want to fight us again. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Well, when we dropped those bombs, we were the biggest kid on the block, and nobody was going to mess with us.
Yeah.
Well, and we fast forward to the mid '80s when Reagan bombed Libya. I mean, I remember as a kid, Gaddafi was scared of him. I mean, he would say what he would do and all this kind of stuff. And I'm not trying to analyze or give if this was the correct action. I'm just saying this is what happened. Reagan sent in the Navy, and they bombed Gaddafi back to the Stone Age, and he didn't. He shut up.
Well, and it seemed like the right thing to do at the time, I guess. With Ender's Game, I think the question that begs to be answered in this game or in this movie is, do the ends justify the means?
Yes, that is a big question.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they went in. Now, Ender did not know what was going on. They went in and completely destroyed the planet. Ender finds out that he has won the war. There is not going to be another war because it's over with. And they've turned this kid into a 14-year-old mass murderer.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
He lost the war, and at the end of the movie, he's trying to find his soul.
Yeah. I heard someone refer to Ender as being an innocent killer. And the irony, I guess, the juxtaposition of those two words.
Huh.
Well, you even think of his name, Ender. I mean.
Yeah, he is the end.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that's coincidence at all. I mean, I think the word game is definitely certainly a play on words. I mean, he just almost practically ended the Formic race. Okay, there is one queen left, kind of in that pod or whatever, and he's going to try to find a safe place for it at the end. But he killed, billions of these people, whoever they are. I mean, only thinking that this was just a last battle simulation. And he wanted to win the simulation, but I think he probably would have done it differently if he would have thought this was the real deal. I don't know if he would have gone as gung ho if.
Yeah, I guess the question is, if he was put into the battle scenario and it was the real deal, would have he carried out his actions the same way?
I mean, go ahead, Jim.
I believe he would have, because he's already proved several times throughout the early part of the movie that he will do what it takes to win, even if he's going to regret it after the deed is done.
Huh, you really think that he would have destroyed the planet, though?
Oh, yes.
I guess you have to take into like when they attack initially, before they attack the planet, they have that little skirmish in the asteroid belt or whatever is around the planet, the planet's rings. They have a little bit of a skirmish there, and there is a little bit of a battle happening, partly being provoked by Ender and his crew, but they are in full-fledged battle. Now, whether that it's battle where the buggers are just kind of protecting or not, I mean, we don't, who's to say, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would say that given what Ender knew, the information that he was given, he would have gone ahead and done exactly what he did if it were the real scenario.
If that's the case, Jim, then do you take issue with him being an innocent killer?
I would say the guy has a lot of rage in him.
And that might compromise the idea of him being innocent.
He has a mission to accomplish, and he's going to accomplish mission. Now, I think that had the final battle been a simulation, and then going on, him being the supreme commander or whatever, that he most likely would have done a little more homework before entering battle.
Yeah, I agree with you there. He probably would have fought more to communicate and such as well.
Yeah. It was go ahead.
But he absolutely, he adores his older sister, and he's been told that Earth is going to be attacked, and he doesn't want to lose his sister.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's a complicated story.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
I was actually I was reading one review of Ender, and it said, and they put it this way: we can forgive Ender for the killings. Who's this guy? I should give him some credit. This is by John Kessel, and it's about Ender's Game. It's called Ender's Game: Intention and Morality: Creating the Innocent Killer. But he writes in his essay here, and I thought that it's worded so well. And it's under a section called Guiltless Genocide. And he says, we may forgive Ender for the killings of Stilson and Bonzo, but can we forgive him the extermination of a race of intelligent creatures? And then he says, then he makes reference to another essay that speculates that Card wrote Ender's Game as an apologia for Adolf Hitler. She points out certain parallels between Ender's biography and Hitler's. They were both third children. They were both virgins until the age of 37, which doesn't come into this book, but Speaker of the Dead. They were close to their older sisters. They were abused by adults, and they both committed genocidal acts.
Huh.
It's not a ringing endorsement of Orson Scott Card.
No, it's not. Now that was this late. Now that he was reflecting on it, and this guy John Kessel doesn't believe that Ender's Game is that, but there are some parallels between Stalin and Hitler that you do see in Ender's Game. And he said for him the biggest parallel is that they were both thought in the public eye to be loathsome mass murderers, I guess. But I thought it was an interesting take on it. So,
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I guess the other thing we do have to mention, we mentioned the video game that he kind of enters into, right? So there's this video game that Ender encounters sleeping in bed one night, and it's this mouse that has to choose between the two cups, and both choices are not right. Now, obviously, that becomes synonymous with him not, damned if you do, damned if you don't type of situation, right? And so he decides to change the game and decides to leap into the guy's eye and knock him down, and then he kind of finds himself in that world, and it becomes kind of a foretelling of his encounter with the bugger, I guess. Any thoughts on that scene?
It's almost, I'm going to bring a Star Trek reference. That's what Jim Kirk did with the Kobayashi movie. He changed the rules of the game.
Way to bring in Trek.
I thought the same thing.
But it is very true, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he changes the rules. And they seem to insinuate that the game was put there, but he's basically interpreting the game, and that what's happening is something that he's kind of making up. This game somehow interacts with your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Even the one major and the colonel wasn't sure how he could see images of his sister on the game. That wasn't.
Was his brother also in the game?
I don't recall seeing his brother in the game. Guys, what do you think?
Yes.
Yeah.
He did appear, and it scared him pretty bad.
Now you say that, I remember that now.
Yes, yeah. So both of them appeared in there and somehow are part of it.
Well, they kind of allude that that's the Queen trying to communicate with him through the game. You know.
Right. Yeah, it's true. And then and he of course kind of figures it out when he looks at the rock formation and say, "Oh wait, that kind of looks like the Holland Castle in my dream."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's kind of sad that they won't make sequels, because there is Speaker of the Dead and other ones that come out after are books that are almost just as powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
But let me see here. Other scenes, we can maybe move into some acting performances, or maybe other aspects that stuck out to you, and then we'll head into some quotes here. But anything else that kind of sticks out to you in the movie before we move into some of that stuff?
This was a visually impressive movie. I mean, they obviously spent the money for it. The scenes in space were fantastic. The battle scenes, whether it be the simulation or the final battle, just visually, lots of good eye candy there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Even the audio, I saw when I watched it the second time. I wore headphones, and like there was a change in the voices when they were on the spaceships and stuff to make them sound more like their voices were reverberating in these tiny tin rooms, that I just thought was really cool.
Yeah. Jim, any other parts or moments for you?
I was impressed in the theater when I saw the shuttle for battle school take off the first time. The way the whole place shook.
Oh yeah.
And when I saw it on television, of course, that didn't happen. But yeah, in our theater here, we've got state-of-the-art sound, and it just really rumbled. I'll never forget hearing that. Plus, that this movie should have been seen on a big screen.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I would think on IMAX, I mean, especially those battle scenes, would have just looked.
It would have looked epic.
It was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and he's really standing there. I don't know, Jim, maybe, I don't know if you thought about this, but he's really kind of standing there at the end when he's conducting the battle, really like a conductor of a orchestra or a band.
Yeah. He's got that virtual holographic display that he's moving things around on. But, yeah, there were definitely some overtones of that.
Yeah, some definitely cinematic, his opus, his symphony that he's definitely playing here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how about let's talk real briefly about, we're running a little bit short in time here, but let's talk real briefly about the acting performances. How did you feel about Asa Butterfield is it Asa or Asa? I'm not even sure. Asa Butterfield as
Asa.
Ender Wiggin. Is it Asa? Asa Wiggin, Asa as Ender.
I thought he did a pretty good job. I'm not familiar with his work. I mean, he's a youngin. I mean, but
Yeah.
I thought he did good.
Yeah, I think his notables were like Boy in the Striped Pajamas and Hugo were his big ones.
I thought it was fine. He did all right.
He did. I thought he embodied Ender for me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He handled the anger scenes really well, and I think that's something that's difficult for children to get.
Yeah, he handled that well, and then he also handled the idea of remorse. I thought he captured that fairly well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I watched the movie with the director's comments, he chose Asa Butterfield because he looked like a wimp, but he could absolutely not act like a wimp when he needed to.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. What about Petra? So it's Haley Steinfeld is her name, and she was in True Grit. She was the girl in True Grit. What do you think of her performance?
Kind of felt like it was throwaway, to be honest.
Well, yeah, again, the movie doesn't give much time to develop her character, not like the book.
Yeah.
She came across a little bit like a Ender cheerleader.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Harrison Ford's performance as General Gaff. What do you think?
I
I
loved it.
didn't. I, I didn't like him. I love the performance, but I did like Graff.
Well, I don't think you're supposed to like Graff, but I guess maybe that's one of the signs of a good performance is when you hate the character.
Yeah.
But
The worst that Harrison Ford's acting is, it'll only be good. So I mean, Harrison Ford. You made you sort of understood where he was coming from. He was given this mission to keep the Earth safe and do whatever it took to do it, and he felt totally justified in every decision. For him, the ends did justify the means.
yeah.
And there's when he and the major are sort of arguing about, he says something about, I may not remember it correctly, but about dealing with the moral implications of it later. It was, the mission was the most important thing in the world, and the mission was to save the world. And he talked about raising thoroughbreds, and he says Ender is a thoroughbred.
Hmm. He's messing the kids up, and then it's her job to put them back together again.
That's probably a good way of saying it.
And then he says to her, he says, "Why is it? What difference does it make if there's nothing to put back together?"
Yeah.
But you know something? While I think about it, Graff thought for sure that there was going to be an attack, but when they got to the planet, it sure didn't look like the Formics were preparing for an attack.
Yeah.
So
Although
I'm wondering.
I guess they argued that the planet they were building ships for something.
But supposedly the ships were only 28 days away.
Yeah, that's what I don't get. That one scene where Graff is sitting in his office and you see ships seemingly headed for Earth.
Yeah. Did Graff have all the information, or was he fed incorrect information?
Was he manipulated maybe as well?
Yes.
Yeah, was he a pawn? And that's something I'm not sure we have. The other thing that I thought was the footage we seeing of them being seemingly close to Earth, was that archival footage? I mean, I don't know.
See, I took it the other way around. I didn't take it as them being close to Earth. I took it as our forces being 28 days away from the Formic planet.
Oh, okay.
That's how I read it. And that's why there was a time thing, because it was like we have 28 days to get a leader ready for the attack.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah. I don't know, but Jim, I think the position you present does provide an interesting postulate, and certainly might give you just a little bit of empathy for Graft if it is true, but if he's being also played and manipulated in this game.
Yeah.
It's all one big game. It's a game within a game.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Another character I liked was Sergeant Dapp, their drill sergeant.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
One, I don't know, for whatever reason, somebody of African ancestry has a British accent. It just sounds great.
British accents just make everyone sound good.
Yes, but when somebody of African ancestry does it, it sounds even better. But just seeing his interaction with Ender and the kids, and the one scene where I guess Andrew just got on his nerves, and he says, "Drop it, give me 20." And he says, "You think you're the smartest kid here?" "No, sir. You will never. I will never salute you." "Yes, you will, sir." So it's like Andrew gives him a little. He capitulates a little bit, but not that much.
Yeah. No, it's Nazo Inozi, I believe is the guy's name. So.
Mm-hmm. And I thought I recognized him, but he was
in the Gray Atonement.
Game of Thrones season 2.
Oh, I recognized him from Game of Thrones.
And he was in the new Conan with Jason Momoa.
Oh yes, he was. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was like a kind of a right-hand man to that.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, he was a perfect sergeant major.
Yeah, he was definitely good in that role.
Mm-hmm. But there's some interactions with Sergeant Dapp. I mean, Wiggin would, Andrew would talk with him, and sometimes they would have sort of unspoken communication between the two.
Give me a sec, guys. I got to say goodnight to Kiefer.
Cool.
Buddy.
Daddy.
I know. Everybody get quiet in here. No. Fine.
Daddy, why does it say that M&M thing up there?
It's just because it's an advertisement, buddy.
Oh. Yeah, remember that book that I got for my birthday?
No.
That chapter book that's on my dresser?
No. You don't need to show it, buddy. You don't need to show it to me. I believe
Hey, bud,
you.
say goodnight to Daddy.
But I love you, bud. Okay.
Okay.
I love you, buddy.
Say goodnight to Miles.
Bye, Mom.
Good night, buddy. See you next time.
Cute kid. But I forget where we're at. But
we were talking about Sergeant.
Yeah, that. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. But he definitely gave a good performance. Yeah, definitely gave a good performance. Well, let's move in. Any thoughts and quotes that kind of stuck out to you guys?
Well, the first one that we see, it sort of opens the movie, and it's by Andrew Wiggin. In a moment when I truly understand my enemy, understand him well enough to defeat him, then that very moment I also love him.
That embodies the movie there at the end.
Right.
A little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I guess, at any time that he encounters the
excuse me.
Any time that he encounters the his enemy, he kind of reacts that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of others that there were a couple lines that. I mean, we mentioned the whole, about the. Why are you kicking him? You had already won. Knock him down with the first fight. You mentioned that one, Jim. That's obviously a good quote.
Yeah.
Let me see if there's any others. There are. It wasn't quote heavy, I guess.
It is not a very quotable movie. There's some interesting lines. I like what Colonel Graff after Wiggin says, you made them hate me. He says, well, I told them you're the best. We needed Julius Caesar or Napoleon. So it's like, all right, we see, maybe where Graff's head is a little bit.
Actually, there is one quote with a conversation between Colonel Graff and Andrew Wiggin where he says, hey, Colonel Graff says, we won. That's all that matters. And Andrew Wiggins like, no, the way we win matters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a pretty classic quote there. And the other one between him and Colonel Graff is Colonel Graff saying, you have the habit of upsetting your commander. And Andrew Wiggins says, I find it hard to respect someone just because they outrank me, sir. So I thought that was also a good quote. Just two other things to point out about the movie before we begin to wrap this up. It was interesting. No opening credits for this movie.
Yeah, it's true.
That's kind of unusual when you have a movie. Typically, you roll credits, and everyone's name gets touted and blown across, and you just don't have that.
Well, that's something that's getting taken away more and more, I think, in film. I think they're going away from having the credits at the beginning and putting them at the end.
Well, that's our society. Instant gratification. Nobody wants to sit through it.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. I miss the days of sitting through 5 to 7 minutes of credits at the beginning of the movie. Come on.
I don't, because when you watch a movie with my mom, it's what was that person in? What was that? And then there's like a 2-hour conversation before you get through the beginning credits.
Right.
Buy her an iPad.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. But it was kind of interesting that they opted to go that route, and that's neat. I think it's neat that people are moving into that. Although, I don't know, the title of the movie somehow does represent the movie, so I don't know. Maybe the title was pretty obvious here, and I don't know. I don't know. I thought at the they also said at the very end of the credits, if you sit through them, you hear some formic chirping at the end.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So if you sit through the credits, you'll hear it at the end. So.
I guess they were hoping that maybe they would get that sequel.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think so, but you can always hope that. Well, I believe that's it. Any let's just go around and give closing thoughts here on how we ended up rating Ender Our Minds as far as a movie, as far as maybe its importance. And I don't have a rating system here, so if you want to create one, we're going to start with you, Jim. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm calling this movie, as far as my own entertainment is concerned, a 5 out of 5. I think it's a very complicated movie, and you're going to discover new things as you watch it again and again. But visually, very stunning. Just all around a great film.
Awesome. My favorite comment was when we roped you into doing this. You said that you made mention, I guess, to your family that I'm going to watch Ender's Game, and your daughter comes running out. Oh, we get to watch Ender again. Mm-hmm. So I mean, they statements in that.
Yeah, it's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, you're raising her right, Jim. You're raising her right. David, how about you? Where do you stand in this movie?
Well, I'm going to say this for me personally, it's going to get a 4 out of 5. I really liked it. I was very surprised. Knowing that I had to sit down and watch it again, I kept thinking, man, I don't know if I want to sit down and watch this movie again. Like, that's a lot of chunk of my time. But within the first 5 minutes, I was like, oh, wow, I remember this movie's really good. I don't know why I forgot and didn't want to watch the movie again. Like, I really enjoyed it. As far as it's a hard movie to share with other people, though, and I think mainly because of the experience I had where a lot of the people I saw didn't like it. So I would say if I had to rate it to a scale with other people, I'd probably say a 3 out of 5. But for me personally, 4 out of 5.
How about you, Miles?
I would give it a 4 out of 5. I think it's very good science fiction. It tells a story, and it gives you the viewer something to wrestle with. It's not sometimes good science fiction presents you with an issue or something to wrestle with, and doesn't necessarily tell you which conclusion to go with. There is reasons to maybe go with Ender's conclusion, and there may be reasons to go with Kraft's conclusion. But it's done well. I mean, if you don't leave there thinking, you weren't paying close enough attention.
Yeah. Okay, for me, I think that I would rate it I would probably give it a 4.5 out of 5 overall. And there's some different points. It depends how I evaluate the film. Was I thoroughly engaged and entertained? Yeah, that's a 5 out of 5 in that area. Were there some parts I wish they would have pushed out and developed a little bit more? I wish, for example, that we would have had just a little bit more information about his parents, because I felt like they're kind of skirted over. There's a little bit of background that we don't get, like with Peter Wiggin. It's just kind of we know he's supposed to be this ruthless man. We see one small scene with him in it, and that's basically it. We don't really get too much with him. So I felt like there was a little bit of underdevelopment of some of those issues. And granted, it's not a short movie to begin with, but there was a little bit. I felt there was a little bit in the development area that I wish I would have seen. But then the other way I also evaluate this movie, and I tell my students this all the time in creative writing, I said one of the signs of a good story or a good movie is when I walk away from it and I'm able to have conversations about what the message of the movie is or what it's saying, and whether I agree or disagree with it. And I think this is one of those movies that does elicit that discussion. And maybe from that table, I'm looking at it and say, well, this is again a 5 out of 5 for me. So it depends, I guess, how I'm looking at the movie. But overall, I'd probably give it about 4.5 out of 5. Yeah. And so that's kind of where I take it. So
Cool.
yeah. Well, any final thoughts before we get out? Should people do people need to see this movie?
Well, if you're a science fiction fan, which I assume if you're listening to this podcast you are, then I would say, yeah, get out there and rent the movie. I mean, Redbox is great. You can see a movie for like $1.25, so why not?
Yeah, not bad. Jim, your thoughts?
I completely agree with David there. I think sci-fi fans need to see this.
Yeah. Yeah. And Miles?
I agree with our other co-host.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think people need to see it, but I think even more than that, if you haven't read the book, Ender's Game, when you talk about books that are must-reads as far as a collection of science fiction, if you consider yourself someone that enjoys literary science fiction, Ender's Game as a book is one of those must-reads. I think sometimes it gets shelved because it's kind of juvenile, but the story is far from juvenile, in my opinion. But yeah, so those are some of my thoughts. Well, guys, I really appreciate all of you coming in. Before we get out of here, we're going to give you a chance to plug your respective shows. Jim, let's start with you. Tell us where people could find you, haunt you, harass you on the web.
Well, you can find me on the Dune Saga podcast, hopefully soon to be released Babylon Project podcast. I have a blog, jimscifi.blogspot.com, and I'm on Twitter and Facebook and all those neat places. So,
awesome. David, how about you?
Well, you can also find me on the Dune Saga podcast at dunesagapodcast.com. You can find me on Twitter and Facebook as well. I'm kind of floating around.
Yep.
So,
not literally, mind you. He doesn't have any Spencer fields around him.
I'm not the Baron.
No, definitely not. And Miles, where can we find us, I guess?
We're on Twitter, but best place is our Facebook page.
Yeah, our fan page.
So check us up there. I would encourage you, listeners, if you haven't joined our Facebook page, please join there. We have some really good, interesting discussions going on in what's going on in sci-fi right now.
Yeah. And we can find you on Twitter at Son of Wharf, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so Son of Wharf on Twitter if you want to haunt Miles. I'm on Twitter as well. I'm the voice, I guess, behind the Sci-Fi Diner Twitter handle, but I'm also there as Herzog. And again, as Miles said, you can find us at sci-fi-dinerpodcast.com. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. It was good, and we're going to get out of here. So, Miles, why don't you take us out?
All right. Till next time, good night and good luck.
We will see ya. All right. We're going to wrap the show at that point.
That was fun.
Yeah, I clocked in at about an hour and 10 minutes, it looked like. And I may throw in some clips there like I typically do in these rewinds. So
Cool.
And we'll kind of go from there.
Maybe we get Em to record maybe a few comments.
Well, yeah, if we can get her to do it. So give her little spot. So.
Yes.
But all right, guys. Well, hey, thank you guys so much for coming on to talk Ender.
Yeah, glad I could make it.
Thanks for inviting me.
Oh yeah, no problem. And yeah, I really appreciate it. I'll let you know this episode will air probably toward the end of next week.
Okay, cool.
So, if all goes well. So
cool.
All right. Well, hey, thank you guys for joining us. I'm going to wrap up the feed here since we're still broadcasting, and we'll go from there.
All right.
Hey, we'll catch you guys.
Okay, I'll get this uploaded.
Okay, that's right. You're sharing your feed with me. So
yep.
Very good.
I didn't record my side.
It's okay. I recorded your side.
Okay, good. All right.
All right.
All right. See you.
Guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.